Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Luke Evans. I'm a senior client partner at Unity, looking after about 150 studios and publishers across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And let's go with Melissa. If you'd all like to, of course, say who you are. We know who you are, of course, but...
Just heard everything about me. Still Melissa Brown from Meta.
And I'm John Keefe. I'm co-founder and CTO at Draw and Code and Draw and Code Labs, which is based here in Malta. We've got some very cool things to show you on the show floor, so we'll talk about that a bit more.
Hello, everyone. My name is Taylor Freeman. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Axon Park, also based in Malta. And we are building an educational platform that works with VR as well as flat screens. We have about 10 PCs out there running demos if you want to check it out in a bit.
Okay, I'm Martin Hughes. Nice to see everybody from Metaverse Me. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO, and we're building a platform for, I guess, exploration of digital identity and how that plays out in the digital space.
Awesome. So the kind of common theme across all of this is the kind of social aspect and bringing people together. So how do you think the social connection works with your titles? Why do you think it's important as well?
I think for us especially, everything Meta's mission is about social, about bringing people together, about making sure that wherever you are in the world, you are able to connect. And the metaverse is just designed for that. Whatever it happens to look like, it will always be people going to find each other, to connect, to be present. VR does that in a way that is just not possible in any other format.
100%. Yeah, I think with the way we look at immersive technology, we work with augmented, mixed reality, virtual reality as well. And the reasons why we're so excited by those technologies is what they give you from a social perspective. They connect you in deeper ways. You have presence within things like VR. And so the kind of work we do is very much about bringing people together in these virtual spaces, sometimes physical spaces blended with virtual, but people are at the heart of everything. And I think we want people to live those stories, not just be told them, and I think these technologies deliver that.
So it's a little hard to hear what you guys are saying, by the way, but from what I could hear, I think I agree with everything. Martin and I have a fun ongoing debate about AR versus VR and the social implications. I've personally experienced very profound moments in social VR spaces, especially when you're embodying different avatars. There's really interesting psychological effects that happen, things like the Proteus effect, for example, where when you're in a specific avatar, your behavior starts to change. And I think that's very powerful for a lot of people who have found themselves and have been able to discover their identity and discover their sense of self in these virtual worlds. So I think it's actually, in the next few decades, we're going to see very profound shifts of the way that society actually operates because of these social virtual worlds.
So for us, it's about, the first thing is about identity and how we can take who we are in the real world, and maybe we don't have the confidence and things like that to express who we are. So we can kind of show that in a way, and maybe that gives us the confidence to change our look. We try a new hairstyle, we do this, we do that, and I think that's fantastic. And then when it comes to gaming, as Taylor says, we agree, but we kind of have a different perspective on it. So for me, with augmented reality, it's all about being able to experience that digital world at the same time as being able to interact with somebody. So kind of me sitting here playing a game with you, Melissa, you mentioned Cast AR and I think Tilt 5 earlier. So the idea of being able to play opposite each other, have a conversation, have a beer, even argue, while we're having those experiences, I think makes it a completely different type of social element, And you can't have a beer when you're wearing a VR headset.
Oh, you can now.
Oh, yeah.
Just a straw.
I think the era I came from in games was all around couch co-ops, and so if you played games with friends, you were physically there, or you had a LAN party, you all brought your PCs, and very nerdy, and it's showing how old I am, but I think kind of that was for me what I kind of felt best. I was in the room with the people. It felt like there was connection, and we were having these shared experiences, but then we were also having these shared virtual experiences as well. And I think kind of a lot of the newer technologies and mediums are reintroducing that. I think we got heavily disconnected by, we locked into a single screen, and so we're disconnected by everyone around us a lot of the time. And for me, I can think kind of the sweet spot for play and experiences when we can bring everyone together. And you can even see what people are doing in other spaces. So playing in mixed reality, you can still see people coming in and out of the room. The kids come in, you can talk to them, with them while having a battle with a zombie. You can tell them what's for dinner, and it's completely changing the way that digital and humans kind of come together, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. And certainly during the pandemic, I found that, I got an Oculus Quest myself. All of my friends who typically weren't interested in AR, VR type experiences, apart from, Pokemon Go, which I think was the closest we've ever been to world peace, is when that game was released in that summer. But all of my friends started picking up Quest headsets because, again, super accessible, super easy. Even my parents got one. And I think half of the fun was like, trying to teach my dad from, 200 miles away how to actually use a Quest headset. And I just thought it was absolutely brilliant and kind of bringing everybody together that way. And of course, gaming in general and metaverse has kind of really kicked off during that time as like a way to everyone just to hang out, right? And kind of get that social connection back that we're all kind of really missing. And I think moving forwards as well, I think it's going to be a real interesting thing. Certainly, there's going to be a lot of niche technologies coming out and stuff as well. And you mentioned you're doing an educational kind of platform. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I guess the thesis behind this is the pyramid of learning, right? If you're actively engaged in something, if you're participating in the learning, then you actually remember it, especially if you have to then teach it back to someone. So these virtual worlds are amazing because you can create any type of scenario. And there's a huge spectrum of types of training, and I've been doing this for about 10 years now, so I've experimented with all different sorts. But I just believe, especially when you mix mixed reality, virtual reality with AI and the generative AI tools that we have, we are going to see profound shifts in accessibility to very high quality personalized education. Like we have a system now that can generate a course for a student based on their prior knowledge, what they've gotten right, what they've gotten wrong, and it can deliver it to them in a way that's interactive. So, I mean, that just wasn't possible before these technologies. And I think that will have just profound impacts on accessibility to high quality education.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That type of content is exactly what brought me back to VR. The ability for that type of difference to be made and have it so topical to each individual student is just very exciting.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wish I was going back to school, to be quite honest. Because,
No, I'm good.
At least it's exciting, hands-on. I always got on better with more of the hands-on kind of subjects as well. So to actually be able to be part of it and learning that way, I think is absolutely brilliant. So, and where do you guys see like the biggest opportunities are with everything that's kind of coming out now? As again, you mentioned the generative AI. How do you think that fits into kind of your metaverse side of things?
I'll jump in for that. We see the most exciting things in spectating in AR mode for us, whether it's a sports simulation, and we've seen some of those come up recently, in even our football. So we have a football game, actually. And the reason we like the football game is when you play in a team sport, it's social. It's a driver to bring people back to play. And that's fantastic, But then when you get to spectate that, we had as many spectators in our original game as we did players because they love to watch. And being able to take that from the big screen and put it on the floor in front of you, which we demoed last year, by the way, here, just saying. It's a much more interesting experience than watching, we all know esports is rising in popularity, but the idea of sitting there in a crowd and watching these young guys go mad on a keyboard, bashing away and everything else, and watching the game on a big screen, I don't think it's as much fun as some of the demos we've seen from the AR and VR space when you're able to watch these stadiums in front of you in a virtual space. And for us with AR, we can do that while we're also having that beer and that conversation that, apparently you can also do in VR now, I'm learning.
Got to try the Quest 3, it's great.
I'm going to look for a discount on a Quest and then we'll see if it works.
Yeah, see if you can find the discount first.
It more sounded like you were trying to pitch to get bought by Meta, to be honest.
I just think everything is so early. I mean, metaverse is still in its true form a very long way off. There's so many things to be excited about. We don't even know. We have no idea all of the different ways that it is going to impact everything we do.
Yeah.
And some of that is as simple as like games that are released that have a new movement mechanic. I don't know if anybody's heard of Gorilla Tag, but it's one of our biggest titles. And it was a guy that made it in his home, one person after work hours. And it's just a phenomenal hit just because it moves differently from other titles. I mean, not just because. He's a brilliant developer. But that is the differentiating factor. We don't know what all of those factors are. We don't know how much education is going to change, how much this social viewing. I mean, none of us predicted Twitch was going to be great, did we?
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
None of us predicted Twitch was going to be great, did we?
No. God,
Never
no.
would have guessed.
Yeah.
So there's just so much to learn still.
Yeah, and I think the opportunities are very, very broad, but I think talking about, we all saw the press, it was talking about the metaverse being dead, and for me, it was never alive yet, right? We were in the process of building it. The kind of infrastructure is not there, the technology is not quite there, user accounts, the payment systems, everything, right? We're just not there, but that's not to say these technologies are world changing right now. The opportunities exist in more sort of centralized forms, but that's always been the way with software anyway, and a lot of content is siloed. But there is so much kind of you can broadly do. We're doing kind of music experiences, which you could see as call it a metaverse experience, but really it's you get to go to a nightclub and see a real performance that we've captured, and then we used Move AI to kind of recreate all of the motion, captured all the audio, and put you in that gig. Starts in mixed reality and then blends into virtual reality. And so suddenly you can, like say, you can go to sports fixtures virtually. You can go to music gigs that took place and listen to them again. And these were, by the way, both using Unity and Meta just to make sure that we get that in there. But these were beautiful experiences that people loved. And we did a showcase with Meta in London, and it was so well received that we're talking to the likes of Universal and Sony, and there's so many people running towards this space, and there was a little bit of a back off, I think, last year, just because we were going too quickly. The narrative was moving faster than the technology development was, and it's great that people are excited. Apple coming to market, sorry to talk about another headset, but it's a very, very different product, but it will help. It gives options. There's high-end premium headsets that will be used kind of prosumer and mostly for productivity, I would imagine. But yeah, there are so many points of entry in this industry now with these technologies. I wouldn't wait any longer. We've been doing this for 12 years, so we were early into AR. But the second we saw it, we knew it made no sense that we existed within these tiny rectangles, 3D content contained by 2D views. It was just like, this is not the future.
Yeah.
Don't apologize for talking about Apple. We're super excited they're in the market. This is good for everybody. Everybody makes more money if Apple enters and starts, really supporting VR.
You guys are nice to deal with enough.
Drives price down.
Sorry?
Drives price down if other competitors in the market, hopefully.
But developers have more options for making money.
Absolutely.
That's my favorite. I'm after that.
Yeah, the more people that have it, the more customers there are.
And it
that's
legitimizes
one thing
it.
I think in this space, and we're into the blockchain space as well. And that's what we're finding, there's huge numbers of gamers worldwide. There's quite a lot of football fans worldwide, which is why we do a football game. But it is about this number of users in the space that makes it hard for developers. It's hard in the mixed reality or the VR space because there are very limited numbers. Compared to years ago, a few years ago, it's a lot more. But again, it's not mass market yet. I think until somebody, maybe it's going to be Meta, brings out a piece of hardware that actually is accessible, I think we're kind of going to be struggling with maybe selling it to developers, other than as part of an overall strategy. I think Taylor's very brave in his team, going full on into that space, but they have a very specific niche, which I think can do quite well. And that's the only thing I'm agreeing with you on.
Fight. No, I totally agree, and I think, you know, as technologies are kind of advancing, I mean, I think I was saying to you guys earlier, like, for me, the metaverse feels like a boomer term for kind of like online gaming, and for just like, it's just a term to get people who didn't believe in video games to invest in video games, just in my opinion, you know, because it's like, when you look back at the likes of World of Warcraft and EVE Online and different things like that, they're all just built around communities of people all working together or against each other and kind of working through these different landscapes.
It's been taken out of context, hasn't it, the metaverse? You know, everybody says, I'm making this metaverse, I'm making that metaverse, and it's not, it's one space. It's the overarching digital world. And as you say, you've got, you know, Habbo Hotel years ago was huge as a social space. You know, you had things like Moshi Monsters, again, another huge social space for children, but you have all of these other products, World of Warcraft, and these huge games that technically now we would call the metaverse, but we're doing it way back. You look at Second Life.
Yeah.
These products were already doing it. I think we've just got a new phrase now, or a new buzzword for it. You know, and I think that's the problem. Game developers have been doing this stuff for a long time, you know? And I think this buzzword now, maybe people are overusing it to focus on that, maybe that marketing aspect around what they're building, but it's been there for almost since games were started, actually.
But I think it's also a bit about figuring out how to stitch all of that together, how to make it easy to jump between worlds and experiences, how to actually bring these friends together. You're in Roblox, then you're in World of Warcraft, then maybe you're in Rec Room, then you're... None of that is really possible yet. And I think that's where we get that broad overarching metaverse, is when we figure out all of that connective tissue and how we all play together to make that work.
That's standards, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and we're developing our own standards, our own avatar solution, our own ecosystem, but we're only one.
Yep.
You know, and there's a dozen other companies doing it in a different way and with different, you know, utility and everything else. But until everybody agrees, it's never going to work, is it? I can't take my avatar into your ecosystem, or, you know, John's, or even Taylor's, actually. But if we can have that overarching technology, it's like a file standard, isn't it? And look at the number of file standards we all thought were going to win out, and we're still fighting over them. You know? We'll see.
Everything is .pdf, so that'll be fine.
We get 3D PDFs and we're good, right?
That's it.
Fine, yeah.
Done. Sorted.
Yeah, cool. Exactly. So, or like, I guess there has to be like a level of like SDKs or whatever to kind of make those connections. Because the other thing is, people might just not want to do that. You know, you've got to think that, well, no, my metaverse is my metaverse, and I'm going to stay doing what I'm doing over here. And I think it's that kind of thing is a good place to be, because I think people need to have their own groups and cliques and stuff. But
yeah, it only works if it's valuable for people to work together. If each company is able to benefit more by having these connections, then we will find ways to create standards. But it's not Meta's metaverse. It's never going to be Meta's metaverse. It's got to be everybody's. It has to be the groups all working together, or it is going to be each individual spot. And maybe that's how it works out. We don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I like to think about it is the internet. You don't have the internet of pet food, right? You have a website that sells pet food. So I think a lot of people got caught up in, like you said, I'm going to build the metaverse of this or the metaverse of that. So you can kind of just replace metaverse with internet, and it typically kind of works.
Yeah, and that was a lot of work to get all those standards set up and everybody to agree on stuff. That took a long time.
It's interesting, isn't it? You know, when you talk about the internet and people, it's like credit cards. So we always talk about, I think John mentioned payment systems, and nobody cares when they tap their credit card what's on the back end. All they want to do is tap their credit card and pay for what they want. And that's what gamers want. And we know from history, if we look at mobile gamers especially, are incredibly against friction of any sort. And until we sort that, and until, again, you know, even with the mixed reality stuff, until we resolve these friction issues, we're still going to be kind of these niche projects, these smaller projects, you know, that never go mass market.
I think the elephant in the room, I guess the friction comes from the silos, which are controlled because the payment gateways provide so much revenue for the businesses. Like, and And that's across the board, really. And I know that's what the Epic Apple battle's been largely about. You know, obviously, because Epic are fighting for all on all our behalf, I'm sure, being very goodwill for them. But I think that is one of our challenges. Until we can't solve that problem as developers, like that's got to come. Those options need to be there, and they aren't right now. So where we want interoperability between these different sort of centralized worlds, that is probably what the metaverse will look like. But there's a way to go with those technology. And blockchain will probably be a part of that, but then all of the major financial institutions are going to push against that, and governments as well, because that decentralizes the planet. So it's a challenging problem, especially when we're launching a title at the minute with Mel, actually, at Meta, and even just running through setting up all of the sales system, and pricing in every country and region. Every kind of setting of the tax, and it's a pain, right? And it's just amplified by every kind of silo you're also publishing into at the moment. So these are the challenges that lay ahead of us. But from an experience point of view, the technology is so there for me, and it's the next 2 years. I think we're going to see all the iterations in hardware that will push us further forward again.
Yeah, definitely. And we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I think, the kind of overarching theme that I feel is that social connection. In my opinion, it's the age-old, maybe the pirate treasure was the friends they made along the way, And it's those little moments of, hanging out with your mates, having a beer, watching a football game on the thing. Even during COVID, I used the Quest to sit down and watch a film with a friend in the kind of theatre mode, and you could have it turned on or off, so people would still be coming in and out, and it was ever so surreal. It felt very Ready Player Me, But I think that's the main thing, really, is that social connection, which I know you two don't quite agree on all the way. But what do you think would be next then? Kind of apart from an overriding platform that or a glue that sticks everything together.
What's next in social digital experience? Is that this seems like a good opportunity for me to talk about what we're doing on the show floor. Let's sell. We've been working on a system called Fanport, and it is a shared social mixed reality experience. We're not using pass-through like the Quest 3 and Apple's headset. So there is a generation of mixed reality glasses where you can see the world in its entirety, and then you see the digital layer as well. So we always push to bring those things together, but with people being at the heart of that. So we're showing that on the back of the show floor this week. But so for us, location-based entertainment, we want to re-excite the kind of like the arcade type market out of home. We want to bring people physically together, although we do lots of things that brings them just virtually together. But for us, that's been out of home, right? Creating those amazing memories they're with you till the day you die, basically. That's what we want to do, is create incredible virtual memories for people to share together,
Amazing.
I mean, there's so much to unpack in that type of question. I mean, we've seen amazing growth in VR already, and I think the media kind of stifles it, but Meta especially has been just doing an amazing job. The Quest 3 is amazing. Genuinely, it's amazing. And I think we'll just continue to chip away and chip away. Apple will enter into the market. They'll offer some lower end equivalent of the Vision Pro that will be more accessible. And yeah, over time, like you said, there's no way we're going to continue operating with these tiny flat screens. Like, kids of the future, my kids will say, you used to use this how did you do that?
The 3310.
Yeah. So I think we're really seeing that shift into also the new buzzword is like the real-time internet, right? So but I think that's very valid, right? Moving into this trend where space doesn't matter as much, right? Because you can bring it to you. So like you said earlier, what's the future of all this? I think we will see all the big blocks of our lives, things like working, entertainment, social time, fitness, education, start to slowly but surely enter this virtual space where people will just live there, they'll work there. I mean, it's very controversial, right? Whether that's good or bad, but it will happen. It's already happening.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm probably going to repeat some of what John said actually, but because I can't hear him. But for us, it's going to be taking that social experience, location-based stuff where you can go to a location and see an AR experience that you'd never see anywhere else. It's watching something, and as I say, being able to interact with your friends, and all of those kind of things. And I think that's where we want to see it go personally, because for us, that's the social bit that we like. The ability to watch something together in AR. And even if that's a live game, and there's been a couple of demos of this recently, a live football game streamed into Toy Story they did recently. I don't know if you guys saw that. Incredible. But now watch that in AR with some of your friends around you. These are the type of experiences we want to see. And Pokemon Go. I think Luke mentioned Pokemon Go earlier. An incredible experience, but add to that, other things where maybe it's more realistic, maybe it's movie scenes, I think we've spoken about, and things like that, where you can, kind of interact with the people around you and see these things that you just wouldn't see. And at the real location, I'm going to go to St. George's Square in Valletta and watch the dinosaur from Jurassic Park while I'm standing there run across the square, and I'm going to video it. For me, those kind of things are the directions that we want to see it go in, and that we hope with, the cost of headsets reducing and things like that, you'll be able to do it. Because it's not as much fun doing it with your phone, is it? Let's be honest. With a Quest on, it's a lot more fun.
There's that video of the guy getting into the lift, and he's wearing their headset, isn't it? Have you seen it? And he's holding an iPad in VR that isn't, of course, there in the physical world, and he's watching Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on this thing while he's got the headset on, and he's just stood in the lift, and there's a guy just stood next to him going, hey? And he's just there watching a film. And again, very dystopian, very Black Mirror, but I think that will be the way, once, as you say, their headsets kind of get smaller, kind of Tony Stark glasses-esque, I think that's when we're going to start to see some real good change and those experiences, like you say, as well. So, right, our time's up, but yeah, thank you all very much again. Check out everyone on the show floor, and thanks for hanging out with us all this morning as well. And yeah, thank you guys. Cheers.
Thanks very much.
Thank you all.